Marcus spent 4 years at 50% VA disability. He had PTSD, a blown-out back from service, and sleep problems that had gotten clinical. VA secondary conditions were the claim the VA never mentioned to him. Secondary service connection was the path to 100%, and the system never explained it. He filed claims. He sat through exams. He stayed at 50%. The VA rated each condition separately, never told him the conditions were connected, and never told him what was possible. I am Travis Studdard, a veterans disability attorney who has helped countless veterans. Today, I'm going to show you what secondary service connection is, how to file it, and how Marcus got to 100%. Marcus's situation is one I see constantly. Veterans come in with multiple service-connected conditions, sometimes 4 or 5 of them, and they have been fighting each one as a separate battle. The VA lets that happen. It is easier for the VA to rate conditions one at a time and never volunteer that some of these conditions legally qualify as secondary to others. Once a condition is service-connected as secondary, the veteran's total combined rating goes up. And in VA math, higher combined ratings mean significantly higher monthly compensation. Let me start with what secondary service connection actually is. When you have a service-connected condition, any other medical condition that was caused by or aggravated by that service-connected condition can be rated as secondary. You do not need to prove the second condition was caused directly by your military service. You only need to show it was caused or that there was any measurable increase in disability attributable to a condition that is already service-connected. For aggravation claims, the VA looks at the baseline severity of the secondary condition before the aggravation and compensates only the increase beyond that baseline and natural progression. This is a meaningful distinction. Many veterans qualify for secondary service connection and have no idea it exists as a separate filing category. The proof standard for the medical link is the same at least as likely as not, but for secondary, you're linking it to an already service-connected condition rather than to an in-service event. That phrase, at least as likely as not, means 50% or greater probability. In theory, that is not an unreachable bar. In practice, the VA makes it harder than it should be by requiring specific medical documentation that most veterans do not know to submit. Here is why secondary service connection is so important to reaching 100%. Most veterans do not have a single condition rated at 100%. They reach 100% through combinations of multiple ratings. Because of how the VA's combined ratings math works, getting from 80% combined to 100% combined requires adding additional conditions to the calculation. Secondary conditions are frequently the conditions that push a veteran's combined rating past the threshold. Veterans who know about secondary service connection file for it. Veterans who do not stay stuck below where they should be. Now let me walk through the most common secondary conditions. Sleep apnea secondary to PTSD is one of the most filed secondary claims. PTSD and sleep apnea are commonly seen together, and there are multiple medical theories that can support a secondary claim depending on the facts, including weight gain as an intermediate step, medication effects, and sleep disruption. It often takes a strong medical opinion tailored to the veteran's record. Veterans with PTSD develop sleep apnea at substantially higher rates than the general population. Despite that, the VA routinely denies sleep apnea secondary claims by saying the veteran has not provided sufficient evidence of a connection. The typical fix is a private medical opinion from a physician who explains the specific relationship in that veteran's case. Sleep apnea rated at 50% added to existing conditions can push a veteran's combined rating significantly higher. Back conditions secondary to knee injuries. When a veteran has a service-connected knee condition, the altered gait and compensatory movement patterns that come with chronic knee pain can directly cause or accelerate lumbar spine deterioration. A veteran who walks differently because of a service-connected knee puts uneven stress on the knees and hips over years, which stresses the back. That uneven stress causes joint damage. This is a recognized medical relationship. A veteran with a service-connected knee rated at 10 or 20% who develops low back problems has a substantial secondary claim waiting to be filed. Migraines secondary to PTSD or traumatic brain injury. Veterans with service-connected PTSD or TBI have significantly higher rates of chronic migraines than the general population. The medical literature connects PTSD to disrupted serotonin pathways and heightened pain sensitivity, both of which contribute to migraine frequency. Even a 30% migraine rating affects a veteran's combined total in a meaningful way. Filing a migraine secondary to existing PTSD or TBI rating is a recognized path with research behind it. Hypertension secondary to PTSD. The research connecting PTSD to elevated blood pressure is substantial. Chronic stress responses associated with PTSD include elevated cortisol, increased baseline heart rate, and vascular stress that accumulates over time. These physiological responses contribute to the development of hypertension. A veteran who develops high blood pressure after service and who carries a primary service-connected PTSD diagnosis has a viable secondary hypertension claim. Hypertension is rated at 0 to 60% depending on diastolic and systolic blood pressure readings. While ratings are often on the lower end, service connection for hypertension can open the door to a host of other cardiovascular disabilities. Erectile dysfunction secondary to psychiatric medications. Many medications prescribed for service-connected PTSD and depression cause sexual dysfunction as a side effect. Veterans who develop erectile dysfunction as a result of those medications have a valid secondary claim. Special monthly compensation for this condition can add about $140 per month in additional compensation, adjusted each year with COLA. The VA will not bring it up. Veterans have to know to file for it. Now let me explain how to file a secondary service connection claim. You file using the standard VA disability benefits application. You identify the condition you are claiming and indicate that it is secondary to a specific existing service-connected condition. The most important thing you do after the initial filing is build the evidence. Filing the form is the easy part. The evidence is what wins or loses the claim. The most important piece of evidence in a secondary claim is a nexus letter. A nexus letter is a written medical opinion from a qualified medical provider that establishes the connection between your primary service-connected condition and the secondary condition you are claiming. The opinion must state that it is at least as likely as not that the primary condition caused or aggravated the secondary condition, and it must include a rationale, not just a conclusion. A letter that simply states that condition B is related to condition A will not be enough. The VA often gives little weight to a nexus letter that has no reasoning behind it. A strong nexus letter cites relevant medical literature, describes the veteran's specific history, explains the medical mechanism connecting the two conditions, and delivers the at least as likely as not conclusion with clear reasoning behind it. Who can write a nexus letter? A physician, nurse practitioner, physician's assistant, or licensed mental health provider, depending on the condition being claimed. VA is supposed to weigh medical opinions based on how well-reasoned they are and how well they fit the record. A treating provider who knows your history can write a more detailed, persuasive opinion, but it is the quality of the reasoning that matters most. The problem is that most treating providers do not know what a nexus letter needs to say. They may need specific guidance on the language and the standard they are required to meet. Here's what the VA does with secondary claims that frustrates most veterans. When you file a secondary claim, the VA will often schedule a C&P exam. The examiner assigned to that exam may have limited time with you and may not be familiar with the medical literature supporting your specific connection. If that examiner writes a negative nexus opinion, the VA will use it to deny the claim. A private nexus letter from a treating provider directly contradicting the VA examiner's opinion is grounds for appeal. The VA cannot simply ignore private medical evidence that is properly submitted, but the system is set up in a way that seems to encourage a denial. A veteran without supporting medical evidence gets denied quickly. Many assume the VA is right, accept the denial, and move on. The VA counts on exactly that. A denial on a secondary service connection claim is not final. You have the right to appeal. You have the right to submit additional evidence after a denial. You have the right to request a new examination if the original one was inadequate. What separates a veteran who stays denied from one who eventually wins is usually the quality of the supporting medical opinion and the willingness to appeal with better evidence. Secondary service connection denials that look final at first often turn around when a strong nexus letter is submitted on appeal. Under the current appeal system, you have several options after a denial. A supplemental claim where you can submit new evidence, a higher level review, or a board appeal. Each option has different rules about what evidence you can add. If the C&P exam was inadequate, you can challenge it through the appropriate lane. When we reviewed Marcus's file, we identified 2 conditions that had never been claimed as secondary. His sleep apnea had a clear connection to his service-connected PTSD. His back problems were directly connected to his service-connected bilateral knee condition. The VA had been rating him for years and never mentioned either claim. We obtained a private medical opinion connecting his sleep apnea to his PTSD with a full explanation of the medical mechanism. We submitted a separate opinion connecting his back degeneration to the documented gait abnormalities from his knee injuries. The VA initially denied both claims. We filed appeals. Both secondaries were ultimately service-connected. His sleep apnea was rated at 50%. His low back condition and sciatica added additional rating points. His combined rating went from 50% to 100%. His monthly compensation went from approximately $1,133 per month to approximately $3,939 per month at 2026 VA rates. That is a difference of more than $2,800 per month. Over 5 years, that's over $168,000. The VA had Marcus's file the entire time and never told him these claims existed. If you have multiple service-connected conditions and you have never filed for secondary service connection on any of them, you may have claims waiting right now. The VA is not going to tell you about them. Federal law requires the VA to give veterans the benefit of the doubt on close calls. It does not require the VA to identify claims you have not filed. That is what an attorney who knows what to look for is for. Do not wait for the VA to volunteer this information. They will not. If you have a service-connected condition and think a secondary might apply, watch my next video on TDIU. Veterans who cannot reach the 100% on the rating schedule alone often qualify through individual unemployability, and it pays at the full 100% rate. Link is on screen. If you want an attorney to review your file, visit winyourvetclaim.com. I'm Travis Studdard. Subscribe so you don't miss what is next.